going to bring history up to the present day now by looking at a few of the current figures in the IT industry. These people are almost all extremely rich and extremely influential in what we do, and some of them you'll have heard of, some of them you might not have done. So we left the story with the Amstrad CPC and the Amstrad PC. The first computers actually looked like PCs. And here's a man who has made an awful lot of money from selling PCs. If you've ever wondered why Dell, the computer company, is called Dell, well, now you know. It's named after this chap who is Michael Dell. He's the founder and the current CEO of Dell. He's estimated to be worth $17.3 billion, which is an awful lot of money. Apparently he started his company when he was a student at university. He opened a small computer company in his dorm room, and that eventually has become Dell, the company we all know today. It's a measure of his achievement that these days people sometimes talk about a computer and refer to it as a Dell. They will say, I think I'll buy a Dell next time. So he's got an immense amount of power in buying components, working with software people to produce the PCs we use on our desks today. Of course, the main people he's working with are the people behind software, and the biggest people behind software are Microsoft. And you probably already know this is Bill Gates, who was one of the original co-founders of Microsoft. Microsoft, you might not know, has been around since 1976, which is longer than some people think, when Gates founded the company along with his former colleague Paul Allen. They started off as a couple of, I think they'd admit, geeks writing software for IBM and other companies, and their big break came when they got the contract to write the operating system for the original IBM PC. That obviously shipped with an awful lot of computers and made them an awful lot of money, and started Microsoft on the way to the company it is today. Windows first appeared in 1985, and obviously there have been various releases of Windows since then. Windows 95, 97, 98, 2000, XP, and now Windows Vista, which has possibly not been the resounding success Bill and his friends were hoping for. Bill is currently supposed to be worth about $60 billion, which is truly an astonishing amount of money. And in recent years he stepped back from the day-to-day running of Microsoft, left it to other people, and he's engaged in lots of philanthropy, giving money to Africa and so on through a charitable foundation, which many people think is good for him. So if Gates isn't running Microsoft, then who is? The who is someone you probably haven't heard of. It's this gentleman here. This is Steve Ballmer, who is the current CEO of Microsoft, worth a mere $15 billion, so compared to Gates, nothing at all. He joined Microsoft in 1980 and has gradually worked his way up through the company. He's got a reputation for being a particularly hard-nosed, some might even say aggressive businessman, who's really very keen to push Microsoft at every opportunity and to do down competitors, people who might choose to use alternatives, and basically to maximise the value of Microsoft stock, which is what I suppose a businessman is supposed to do. But just think for a moment, all the computers in the world running Microsoft software, this man's in charge of them. Just think of the amount of power he actually wields over everything many people do on a day-to-day basis. The power he's got over organisations, banks, even the university you're probably sat in at the moment. His competitor from a hardware standpoint is probably this chap. This is Steve Jobs, who is currently CEO at Apple. He's originally founded Apple in the 1970s with the other Steve Wozniak, when they built one of the first successful personal computers, and they've been through obviously a lot of things then. Their contribution was to spot the possibility of graphical user interfaces, or GUIs, and Apple computers were the first computers to come with what we now call GUIs, what we now take for granted when we use a computer. Obviously, since the computers, Apple have now also branched out into iPods. You can see, I think that's an iPod shuffle around his neck. He's holding a Mac Mini, and they have a reputation for very nicely designed products, and a lot of people think that they are in many ways superior to Microsoft products. Some people think the other way, obviously. Let's finish by looking at a chap who you probably haven't heard of, but who certainly has contributed to something you probably do most days. This is Tim Berners-Lee, or no, Sir Tim Berners-Lee. The thing Berners-Lee did, and let's record at this point that Berners-Lee was British, was he invented the World Wide Web, probably the reason why most people these days have computers in their homes. He was working as a physicist at CERN in Switzerland and decided to use hypertext as a way of linking research papers together. Eventually he connected his local hypertext system up to the internet, and he had founded the World Wide Web. So, doesn't wield very much power, but incredibly influential. So those are the people that are sort of driving the way the internet and the computing industry is working today, and who have an awful lot of influence over what we do in our day-to-day lives.